maybe nobody wanted to watch this game, and maybe nobody wants to hear what I'm going to say again, but I'm going to say it because it's been a 20-year passion and campaign of mine. Field goal kicking should be eliminated from football. And that was the statement game as why.
I still don't know why people want to get rid of field goals so much. I don't know why people get so bored from it. And to top it off, the reason why he's talking about this is because of that one game, Seahawks versus Cardinals, Sunday night in 2016, where essentially a bunch of kickers missed the field goal and it ended up in a tie, and a lot of people were not happy about it.
And you as a Hall of Famer should be in my corner on this because a bunch of great athletes, great gutsy athletes, battled their guts out last night for 5 quarters, not just 4, for 5 quarters, and 2 little guys who don't play football, who shouldn't even have any business being on the football field, trotted out again and again and choked.
I don't know why Skip thinks Shannon should side with him on this one, especially when Shannon is a former football player. These guys go through a lot of life-threatening hits, and this adds up and it causes damage into their personal lives. So, yeah, football players do not want to play on 4th down unless it's absolutely necessary.
Because they go south mentally like that. Whoa. And once they go south, they are gone.
Skip, you've been awful harsh.
No, I'm not. I've been doing it for years and years, and this is a statement game as to why it should be eliminated. Take the field goal and the extra point out of football. Teams can punt if they want, but you should have to go for it on 4th down every time down the field and let the playmakers, let the football players decide the game. Don't let the little guys doing the gimmicky little kick between the uprights. Sometime, somewhere, maybe long after I'm gone, somebody will wise up and say, you know what? He was right from the start about this.
When it comes to sports, people love watching other players choke. It just happens that way. Obviously, you don't like it when it happens to your own team, but to be honest, people like it when players fail in the clutch. And to be honest, field goal kicking is the epitome of when you can see a huge choke artist right there. So I never see why a player choking would be bad for the entertainment value of the sport.
They don't, because you know why, Skip? Because each sport has a specialist. Baseball have specialists. They have guys that come in and all they do is get the left-hander out.
They're playing baseball. They're baseball players. This is silly. This is a gimmick. This is like some punt, pass, and kick competition. What are you doing? Kicking the ball through uprights? It's silliness. It's insane. It's exciting for all the wrong reasons. You know it, and I know. That was wildly exciting for the wrong reasons.
So it's exciting, Skip. So you agree on the fact that that is entertaining. So why would the NFL get rid of it?
It's football. Take the little kickers out of it. They don't have anything to do with the game.
Of course, Skip Bayless had to shoot himself in the foot, saying kickers don't belong in a sport called football. American football doesn't make sense. The name of it doesn't make any sense because there's very little kicking in it. But let's be honest, football sounds a lot better than hitball.
Can they play? Could they play safety? My friend Jay Feely would always tell me, I'm the backup safety for the Giants. Maybe he was. I don't know, but that doesn't ever happen.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, wait a minute. Didn't Skip Bayless at one point say something that would contradict this current point?
And 2 little guys who don't play football, who shouldn't even have any business being on the football field, trotted out again and again and choked. Can they play? Could they play safety? My friend Jay Feely would always tell me, I'm the backup safety for the Giants. Maybe he was. I don't know, but that doesn't ever happen.
Wait a minute.
And 2 little guys who don't play football, who shouldn't even have any business being on the football field.
So at one moment, Skip's saying that these players are not real football players, and then at another point in time, he's saying that these guys should just play another position, similar to safety. So Skip, are they or are they not football players?
And by the way, once upon a time, you realized way before you started playing football, they made actual football players kick the football. Like if remember Lou the Toe Groza, he's a lineman. Okay, well at least do that. At least outlaw these specialists. Make them play plays.
Here's a history lesson for Skip Bayless. Okay, so Pro Football Hall of Famer Bill Willis was 6'2", a little bit over 200 pounds, just under 220. and he played defensive tackle. So essentially, if Alshon Jeffrey played football in the 1950s, he would have been a defensive tackle. The modern defensive tackle weighs 310 pounds. Bill Willis weighs 100 pounds less than that.
You can't have it both ways. When it benefits you, you're all for it. When it goes against, and that goes to more to my point. When they trot out on the field, the camera is on them. You have one job. Your only job is to come in and put the ball through the upright.
And mostly they choke.
Instead of making coffee, instead of breaking out a bag of balls and seeing all the trick shots that you can do, how about practicing kicking the ball through the upright?
Even though Shannon Sharp didn't really form a good argument, at least he called them out that Skip Bayless cannot have it both ways. The next two clips belong to a YouTube channel known as TYT Sports, or how I like to pronounce it, TYT Sports, because their most popular videos are about attractive female athletes. The reason why they are reporting on this topic is because, well, Skip Bayless tweeted something out and Pat McAfee responded.
Don't read into him too much, and I'm going to give you the bare bones of it. He says, quote, "I despise field goal kicking. Great athletes fight their guts out for 4 quarters and overtime, and 2 non-football player kickers blow it. I know, hot. Someday somebody will listen to me. Field goal kicking should be eliminated. Keep punting, but you must go for it or punt every 4th down." I love going for it every 4th down. So the big thing is Pat McAfee, the Colts punter, chime back. He had some words for Skip. So there's a beef going on. It's a beef and it's Skip Bayless related. I don't know what else. This should be our entire channel. But my brother, all of us Pro Bowl kickers love old men who get on TV and act like douchebags while wearing makeup. Let's hug it out. Here's where I actually agree with Skip Bayless. It is, going for it on 4th down, that type of thing. My God, it would make football so. If you couldn't punt it, football would be even more interesting than it already is, right? Yeah. If you couldn't, even if you're backed into your own end zone, it's 4th and 10 on your own half-yard line.
Okay, so let me ask you, how many times in a game will a team be backed up in their own end zone? Very few times.
Oh, how good. Do or die in the first quarter.
I know.
It would have made the Seahawks and Cardinals game fascinatingly interesting. It would have taken a game with, as we talked about yesterday, 15 punts, as Barry Paczewski put it from Deadspin, more punts than points. 12 points, 15 punts. Fascinating. That's 15 4th downs they would have to go for it.
It was a football game.
On that Sunday night, those offenses were absolutely terrible. I don't know why these guys essentially want to see the offense be on the football field for another down. Do you really want to watch another embarrassing performance by one of their offenses? And what Jason doesn't understand, if you don't know who Jason is, he's the guy on the right. If you go for it more on 4th down, it becomes less and less exciting. Sure, when you see a team do it every once in a while, yeah, it's exciting because it's rare. If you take away field goals, it will become more common, which means it will be less special.
However, I mean, this is it's a very Skip Bayless-y tweet. It's a very Skip Bayless-like thing to say.
If you haven't watched TYT Sports before, they are critics of Skip Bayless, so it's kind of funny that they are citing on Skip Bayless on this one. I am going to skip ahead where they are on topic during this video.
Oh, kickers are football players.
No, they are not.
No, they're soccer players.
They are soccer players. Anecdotal evidence. Every single kicker I had in high school, every single kicker that is on the collegiate football teams, I promise you, used to be a soccer player that just has a hell of a leg.
You can say the same thing about tight ends. They were probably power forwards or centers at the high school level, let alone a lot of them were at the collegiate level. Remember Jimmy Graham and Antonio Gates? Yep. Russell Wilson is in the New York Yankees farm system right now, and he's built more like a baseball player than he is a football player, but is he a franchise quarterback? Yep. Football is a relatively diverse sport when it comes to shapes and sizes.
Correct.
They're not football players. Football players are the ones that go out there and get bashed for 48 minutes at a time. The people with the broken knuckles. You talk about the Bear Bryant days.
We're not saying.
Well, if you look back at the Bear Bryant days, a lot of kickers could have played defensive line back then.
That, but you can't disguise the fact that a lot of kickers have prevented touchdowns on those block field goals and stuff like that. So a lot of them still get into it because what you're doing in that situation.
That's the outlier. That doesn't prove the rule.
But what you're what Skip Bayless is saying is that they're not willing to get into the trenches and fight for it, when the truth of the matter is they probably are. Some kickers run the hell out of the way. But guess what?
I don't know if he's necessarily talking about the intention of them getting in on plays, but just their intended role on the field. Like, you can't really talk about individual, attacks on plays, but the kicker does not get in there until that one moment where he flexes his leg. That's not every other position on the field. You are using the entirety of your body, typically against the entirety of another person's body, to get to your goal. Kicking is a very light aspect of the rule, and I think it's the institution of the game that makes it a necessary part of it, not necessarily the role of the kicker.
You can say the same thing about the quarterback position. The quarterback position might not be as finesse as the kicking position, but still is finesse, because essentially quarterbacks, they're not the ones trying to tackle or try to hit anybody. They try to avoid getting hit. Sure that they do get hit more often than kickers do. However, though, it's a relatively finesse position. Early on in the video, Shannon Sharpe brought up the exact same point, and by far that was Shannon Sharpe's best point of the whole argument.
It's simply because they don't want to give us the name. That's it. That's the reason. Right, so this is what I'm saying. So you imagine an alien comes down from space, right? They don't have any clue about sports. They're just in to watch sports, right? So they go and watch a football game, right? Football, and they're like, oh, okay, they try to kick the ball in the net. That makes it. There's a guy trying to stop it. No one in that field is doing something that they probably wouldn't do that doesn't go along with that routine. You watch a baseball game, there's guys throwing it, a guy batting it, and a guy catching. And then you watch an American football game, even include hockey, everything in there, tennis, and you watch an American football game and you're like, all right, so they're all trying to beat the shit out of each other to get that ball and then put it in that end. And then you just have a random person come on and kick it just to get an extra point. Okay, the alien would be like, I want to volunteer to do that, because that is such an easy thing to do.
You have halftime shows where they pull people out like, hey, you random guy, you want to try kicking this? Like, they're not going to pull them out.
They do it in basketball too.
Yeah, but that's part of it. That's like a thing that you can't, not everyone can do that.
This part of the argument is absolutely stupid. I'm just going to go up and pass it and go on to another TYT Sports video.
Okay, so we've known each other for a minute now.
Yes.
You threw out one of the craziest things that I've ever heard.
Why are you always dropping your pen?
I don't know. I get into it. I said that we would pick this up at another time.
This is the time.
And now I want your theory.
I have a theory.
You do not want field goals in football anymore.
Well, let me rephrase it. I didn't get to tell you the full breast of my theory. Here's the thing.
Love breasts.
Hey, man, what you trying to get us kicked off there? What? Come on, don't say that. You say chicken breast.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for being a heterosexual male.
Oh, man, this show is going to get canned. Anyway, and I'm not going to get my raise. Field goals. Here's what we're talking about.
Smokey.
I don't think field goals should be in the NFL because it takes away. I don't think the guys that are fighting for 60 minutes, it should come down to some one guy with little bitty legs kicking a field goal.
And those.
Robert, I believe you mean proposal. It's not a theory, Einstein.
And those are strong legs.
It just isn't. Now, I will say this. Okay. I thought about it. I was like, well, okay, field goals, let's eliminate them all the way through unless.
Wait, what do you mean eliminate them?
I want you to eliminate the field goal unless.
So every team has to go for two?
No, they can punt.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wait, no. After score.
Yeah, the extra point too. You got to go for two. You got to go for two.
Okay.
No extra points, no field goals until the last 5 minutes of the game.
Wait, you just contradicted yourself.
Because it takes away. I don't think the guys that are fighting for 60 minutes, it should come down to some one guy with little bitty legs kicking a field goal.
No field goals until the last 5 minutes of the game.
So Robert doesn't like it when games finish on a game-winning field goal. Yet he has a proposal in which there are no field goals that are used until the final 5 minutes of a game. Did you not plan this out before making this video, Robert?
Then you can kick a field goal to try to get ahead or win the game. But like the first to third quarters all the way, no. Either you got to punt or you got to go for it on fourth down. I don't want no 9-6 games. I'm tired of it.
What NFL are you watching? The NFL is incredibly high scoring. Having both teams score less than 10 points in a game is incredibly rare. The offenses dominate in the modern NFL. I looked up how many games where both teams scored less than 10 points in the 2017 season, and there was 2 games where that happened out of 267. How can you grow tired of something that happens way less than 1% of the time?
But don't you also hate punting then?
No, because it adds an element to it. Like, okay, so you're at the 30-yard line. Now it's 4th and 5.
Okay.
What are you gonna do? You're gonna go for it.
Yeah.
You're gonna go
absolutely.
for it, right?
Yeah.
And you're gonna have more strategy for that.
He didn't make it very clear whether or not the 30-yard line is on your own 30-yard line or your opponent's. But let's just say it's on your own, which I think is what he's going for right here. Then the offenses would have less strategy, essentially, because you're taking away field goals. When you take an element out of the game, that doesn't add strategy, okay? That takes away strategy. You take away field goals, essentially, you can only punt and you can only go for it. So instead of having that field goal option right there, you go from having 3 different strategies to 2 strategies.
Okay. And it gives the defense more incentive too, because now you know what happens when a team gets like inside the 40. And you know what else it stops? It stops all of that. Okay, it's almost halftime, and we're not going to be aggressive anymore. It's going to cause more aggression in defenses, everything, because now you got 4 downs. I think it'll be
not necessarily, because then if the team is up, they'll just punt.
Right, they can punt, but it's coming back to the 20.
How is it going back to the 20?
If you punt from the 30. And what are you going to do? Kick it straight up?
No, I'm talking about if you're on your own 45. Then hypothetically, you'll just pin him down.
I don't understand Robert's issues with the fact that teams being too passive before the first half ends. According to StreakEdge.com, the majority of scoring in the NFL happens in the final 2 minutes of each half.
Okay, so my initial thought is the NFL is trying to limit the amount of head injuries, as we're probably going to be done with the kickoff in like 2-ish years.
This is correct.
Okay.
I agree with Nick on this point, but knowing Nick, he's probably going to shoot himself in the foot later on in the video.
So now what you're adding is that many more plays of what the NFL is trying to not have, which is the increased capability of more injuries.
No.
Because field goals, you know what doesn't happen? Guys ramming their heads into each other. Guys are blocking one another, 3 points, and then you just start over.
How many field goals is there a game on average? What, 3?
Depends on the team.
It's 3 a game. 3, 4 games.
Bro, if you're talking like the 49ers, they kick like 5 a game. And that's not, and you're counting the makes. You're not even counting the misses.
You're talking a couple of plays in 100 plays.
No.
A couple
You're
of
saying
plays.
every team needs to go for 2.
Yes.
That is another play added on over the course of a game. When teams, by the way, if we're just going back for, let's say, 5 years, defenses are already limited because you can't put your hands on a receiver, on a tight end, on a running back. So now you are adding that many more plays and inheriting the risk of that many more players being concussed.
I want Madden 95 where nobody punted, nobody kicked field goals.
So Robert wants this.
Players are fucking hell. Rex! Rex! Your game is awful! Your game is awful, Rex!
4 hours of that just sounds wonderful.
Talk about it.
No field goals. No field goals.
I'm not in favor.
No, I'm not. No field goals at all. I'm tired of the kickers. I'm tired of the kickers. They don't do anything.
You know, actually, what I think would be better is if the NFL wants to continue to try to not have their players be oft injured. In overtime, you know what you do?
What?
Let's have overtime be a field goal overtime.
Of course, Nick, you had to screw everything up. You were doing so well, and yet you still pulled out a bazooka and aimed it at your fucking toe.
Let's start from the 20. And let's go to the 25.
It's not soccer.
And then let's go to the 30.
Nobody wants to watch
and then let's go to the 35.
Nobody want to watch no field
and
goals.
so on and so forth.
adjusting my
Get the
hat.
kickers paid already.
No, nobody wants to kick.
Get them paid.
So the ultimate team sport, football, becomes an individualistic sport in overtime. I am still pro field goal no matter how stupid and how Colin Cowherd-esque that sounds, but I'm still pro field goal simply because, well, offenses still have to drive down the field to get the field goal unit in position, or the defense has to make a stop in some regards to prevent a field goal coming. It's still a team effort. Let's just say in imaginary land this is the case. Well, essentially, if the Green Bay Packers made it to overtime, you would see Mason Crosby, not Aaron Rodgers. I don't agree with Skip Bayless with the fact when it comes to field goal kicking that the playmakers aren't making the plays out there, because essentially an NFL quarterback and his team around him still needs to drive down the football field and put his team in position. The only reason why they have these kind of rules in soccer is because there's so many soccer games out there versus there's not too many NFL games out there. So the overtime better be special and better be worth it for the audience. Back to Nick. Nick had a chance. Now, I mean, he had a chance to look reasonable right here and look like he had common sense, but no, he had to screw it all up.
The worst thing is when the game, it's been a hard-fought game, it's 59 minutes of hard-fought football, people sweating and bleeding and everything, and some little 102-pound dude come out there and misses a field goal.
You hate kickers.
One of the biggest misconceptions about field goals is it's a field goal unit that's doing the job. It's not necessarily individual. Sure, the kicker is the quote-unquote star right there, but the line, the place kicker, and the long snapper all still need to do their job to successfully get a field goal.
However, if they want to try, and this is like plan C, if they want to try to limit the amount of injured players that occur during their season, have the kickoff.
Protecting players' health is great and all. However, though, the NFL would never sacrifice the players' health for NFL ratings, especially when you make a overtime that horrendous.
Have the kickoff.
See, I don't care
the
about
kick
that.
off.
I don't care about the injured players. I care about more scoring.
Scoring is not the issue in the NFL. It's an imaginary problem. The only problem it affects are the people who are fantasy football fanboys. Thank Christ this is over with. I was just getting so sick of hearing these arguments. They can have a different opinion. I am fine with that. The problem I have an issue is these arguments are so poorly made. They didn't even put effort into it. I think most of these guys can fill out an intellectual argument, except for Nick Storm, of course. But this is just so unbelievably bad on their part. Let me know your thoughts down below, whether you're for or against field goals. You can be against field goals. Just form an argument that's better than theirs in the video. And trust me, you viewers out there can definitely form an argument better than them. Thanks for watching.
An alien comes down from space, right? They don't have any clue about sports. They're just in to watch sports, right? So they go and watch a football game, right? Football, and they're like, oh, okay, they try to kick the ball in the net. That makes it, there's a guy trying to stop it. No one in that field is doing something that they probably wouldn't do that doesn't go along with that routine. You watch a baseball game, there's guys throwing it, a guy batting it, and a guy catching. And then you watch an American football game, even include hockey, everything in there, tennis, and you watch an American football game and you're like, all right, so they're all trying to beat the shit out of each other to get that ball and then put it in that end. And then you just have a random person come on and kick it just to get an extra point.
Okay.
The alien would be like, I want to volunteer to do that because that is such an easy thing to do.
You have halftime shows where they pull people out like, hey, you random guy, you want to try kicking this? Like, they're not going to pull
they
it
do
out
it in
like,
basketball too.
Yeah, but that's part of it. That's like a thing that you can't, not everyone can do that.